usual, no acrylic underpainting this time, just straight on with the oils. I've already shown you the full palettes that I use of that, so this time, rather than go high speed all the time, I'm going to discuss the colours I'm mixing as I go along, but you can exactly follow it. So start off with the background as usual and just block in straight away with some deeper greens. I'm going to use a bit of Viridian green this time and mix a little yellow ochre into it, deaden it back, but it'll also be a very dark acidic green. And let's see where we need that now. There we go, it's a nice strong, this time fairly warm green. Even though Viridian is a fairly cool green, the yellow ochre will make it much warmer. And we're looking at these sunflower leaves at the moment here, which if I bring some of the yellow ochre almost directly into them, you can see the slightly more sunny effect we'll get. And if I go back to a cooler, the Viridian itself, you will get the cooler green in amongst it. So there we have that. Now if I place next to that a little blue, I'll take some ultramarine, and you'll just see how the shadows can be made with that. So there we have the yellow ochre and the Viridian, now the ultramarine almost directly into it to give shadow, and you see the light shining through the leaf going into the shadowed areas here. So we'll use that same deep blue up and around here, and we'll go back to my Viridian and yellow ochre to start painting in the mid-tones and lighter cool greens around here. We can play between the cools and the warms with those green and that yellow. Now obviously we can mix greens with all sorts of ways. We can mix greens with every yellow we have and every blue we have. So if we think that I'm holding 4 blues on the palette, I've got ultramarine, cobalt, Prussian and cerulean. And then I've got my chrome yellow, my cadmium orange, my lemon yellow and yellow ochre. If we do permutations of those, look how many greens we've got to start with. But then I've also got on my palette 2 or 3 man-made greens, the emerald, the Viridian and light green as well. So between that lot I've got plenty to play with and enjoy, haven't I? So again, here we are almost painting like numbers, putting in colours in the right places, in the right shapes, relevant one to another, and hopefully my painting is just going to appear as it is now. Look, here we are, the yellow ochre with a little touch of Viridian. And I'm going to put that all over the painting wherever it is, in the right places, in the right shapes, or near enough. I don't have to be exact. I mean, I'd be stressed out if I had to start doing paintings like this of from photographs that were exact. If it was a client giving me this and saying this is my daughter or this is my wife or whatever, then obviously I'm going to have to paint a bit more carefully because they're going to want a more exact photographic portrait. But for the sort of work I'm doing here today, I can afford to really just relax and let go and enjoy. Now in the background here it's quite a bit warmer, so I'm going to take my yellow ochre and add a little touch of burnt sienna into that. So yellow ochre and burnt sienna with a little touch of the Viridian still, and let's see the lovely warm green we get going back there then with that. You see it's a nice browny green which actually will come forward in the picture, and I want it to be quite far back, so in a moment I'm going to go back into this and actually add a bit of cerulean blue across the surface to show the light shining into that and pushing it back. Okay, let's take some of that cerulean blue now, so I'll show you on the camera as well, and just come back across this warm, just across the surface of the grass, tickling it over to push it back a bit. And we'll do a little bit of perspective work as well, a little bit of angling, a little bit of going across the painting, not always in one direction, not always just following the lines. It's very dark behind there, and then we've got these cooler blues coming through here. While it's on the brush, use it. We've got a lot of cooler blues from this cerulean also coming in down here, reflecting light. So I'm going to, while I've got it on the brush, I'm going to do that. Use it up, not to waste our paint. And establishing all these colours one to another is very useful anyway. We want to be doing that anyway. Now I'm going to take some lemon yellow and add it to that mix of cerulean. Just put a little bit of that on there. It's very thin, so I'm going to take a bit of white, which will give me a body colour. Now white is nearly always opaque, obviously. There's no point in having white that's transparent, is there? It wouldn't do any good. So white's nearly always opaque, and if I add some lemon yellow to that and a little touch of this cerulean, look at this lovely light blue I get, light greeny blue. I can just paint that leaf in with the rough edges across here as if the light's shining over it. And the terps is thinning it down a bit, so it's just allowing the underpainting to show through slightly. Again, while it's on my brush, if it's in other places, let's put it in there. These little bits of light are in fact shining all through here. I might as well paint them in. I can paint the highlights in at the end as well, but I'm going to paint some of them in now just to liven it up, to establish what's actually going on over my painting from the very beginning. It's coming right up into here, these little bits of light through the edges of this flower bed here, up into there around the hat, little bits of light blue, light green, even this leaf up here coming across, little bits of the light, and in fact quite light and a little pinker. So actually now I'm going to add a very small touch of violet into that, very small touch of violet into my light. And look at the difference that makes. It's a slightly warmer, not much but slightly, and that subtle difference can make all the change you need, coming down here, reflecting on those leaves all the way down. So we're establishing one colour to another. Look how they make each other show out, because this is warmer, that's cooler. The warmer will make the cooler warmer, the cooler will make the warmer seem, and so on. And we play these colours off against each other, a bit like the rough and the smooth, and the light and the dark. We're playing one thing off against another here. So I'm going to talk this painting right through with you. How rapidly we're working. It's not a very big painting, it's a 20-30 inch. But it's a lovely rapid way to work as well. Down here on this leaf here, so look what we've got going on down there. Now, I want a warmer green, so I'm going back to my yellow ochre just a bit. I haven't even used the ordinary yellows yet, the chrome yellows. Yellow ochre just a bit, and I'm going to mix that with that light colour. Just tint it just a little warmer, and just add in some of these warmer tones into that leaf, which again will play the cool against the warm, the lights against the darks, little highlights, and play with them. Now, get to our darker greens again. Oops, nearly stuck my brush into my jar of drinking water then. Back to my Viridian and yellow ochre, which is not something I use a lot of, I must admit, but there are a lot of these nice rich green cools in here, so while I'm painting I'm going to put them in around the figure. I shall come in with more texture into that later. Let some of the dark still show through, just let the underpainting do the work. Around here, a lot more darker colours to put in there yet, but just establishing, getting rid of this black canvas and establishing all these colours, these little leaves that are going on back in here. And you see how I'm using the tip of the brush, reaching out to this, and I can see what I'm doing from a distance, and it's a bit like sword fencing, as I said earlier on. We are touching, we are tickling, we are almost fighting. We're touching the colour onto the canvas gently, and we're feeling the leaf that we're doing. We're actually drawing a mark with the brush, painting a mark with the brush. Drawing and painting can be very, very similar, about the object that we're painting. Not just making it up. My actual strokes with the brush, my actual movement with my hand is about these objects that I'm painting. So I put a bit more yellow ochre in then to get these warms going again. Let's get these warms going in the background. We've still got to use our chrome and cadmium yellows and stronger yellows yet, so we're still using our duller colours. We haven't got to the strongest of our colours yet. Quite a rapid way to paint. Dull greens, which will be blue in a minute, coming through here, and some of the lighter colours. We've still all these colours on our canvas. Got all these colours on our palette to put onto the canvas. Right, so all I'm doing is using up the colours I've made at the moment. These lovely greens that we're getting, without using any blues at the moment, just using my Viridian and yellow marks about what's there. To work that path in later. Lovely way to paint, lovely loose way to paint, and enjoyable way to paint. And that's what we should be doing, is enjoying ourselves. What's the point in this unless we do start to worry about whether you're painting as well as the next artist, or whether you're going to sell the work, or once all that starts, it ruins what you're doing, doesn't it? It can also be a great pleasure too. I mean, if you sell your work, I mean, I know with me, the more I sell, the more I could produce. And there's a balance between the work piling up and sitting there in the studio or the gallery with that many visitors, especially this time of year, and then it makes you not want to paint so much because you've got too much there. But people appreciate what you do and they buy it. Well, you tend to paint more because you've gained more from it. Areas most needing greens. I've got to come in with some of the deeper greens. Now I'm going to start actually. Use a bit more Viridian to make it a lot greener into some of this before I start using my blues. So I'm not mixing any new colours now that I haven't mentioned. We're staying with the Viridian and a little touch of yellow ochre, just making blobs of colour. It takes me back to a rather fun time back in New Zealand, where the chap was just coming out of an exhibition I was holding there, and he wasn't quite sure about my work, and the lady that was looking after it, I happened to be standing in the background, and the lady at the entrance said, "Oh, did you enjoy the exhibition?" And "Oh, I don't know," he said, "wasn't quite what we expected." So, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the work was sort of blobs of paint, sort of daubs, just daubs, and actually in that particular exhibition there was a lot of very varied work of mine. There was also photographic work as well, because as you've seen from the films, I do work in all sorts of different ways. So it wasn't really a very good comment. So I thought, well, you probably understand that the Impressionists were called the Impressionists because a so-called expert, an art critic, went to give a critique and came out and wrote, all they are is impressions of views, blobs of paint and impressions of views. And so the Impressionists became the Impressionists. They said, okay, we're just painting impressions, we will be called the Impressionists because we work about light and colour, and we're not painting a photograph, we're not painting something mechanical, we are doing something which comes from our mind, from our eyes, from a combination of feelings and emotions about the colours, the compositions, the textures, the atmosphere, the light. These things happen in abstract painting as well, but what we have to remember is that we are actually painting an abstract painting whenever we paint. Now I'm going to use some ultramarine and yellow ochre now, which will give me a slightly deeper warm, and more ultramarine to make it more blue. And let's really start to work on some of these deeper blues in the shadows. In fact, these lines here of the poles that I've got, not easy with a big brush like this, but we have got some canes going here, and those canes will show a deep. Using the ultramarine now, and a little touch of yellow ochre just to take off the bluer fraction. I'll bring in these cools in amongst the leaves. Little blobs of colour which make little blobs of leaves as a daubist. I call myself not an Impressionist now, but a daubist, shall I? In fact, it was a rather derogatory term also used for painters by non-artists. He's just a dauber. And when we put the daisies in, of course, these dark areas will really stand out. because the daisies are going to be very light. I'm going to go very dark at the blues in a minute. I'm going to use my Prussian blue, really get into there. Let's bring up these blues here into the leaves. Blend one colour into another slightly as well as we go along. Still using the ultramarine, this mottled effect of sunlight. I'm going to push colours beyond the photograph. I'm going to take this beyond this, just copying the colours off the photograph. I'm going to change the patterns and colours slightly and try and get the feeling of light and the time of the day here. I'm filling up all of these dark areas with paint, just leaving a little bit of the dark background showing through. Now my Prussian blue, which is a very, very dark blue, but it's quite an acidic blue. While I've got it on, it's going to be going on in her hair here, so we'll bring that right round. While it's on your brush, wherever it is, doesn't matter which bit you paint. You don't have to stick with, right, we'll paint the face now, right, we'll paint the hair now, right, what rubbish. You paint what you want, when you want, as long as it's relevant correctly one thing to another. Band in as well with it, so it is there, the colour is there. We can lighten it up later with different blues. Now the Prussian gives us a chance to make a very dark colour, so I'm going to take the Prussian and add into it some alizarin, which will give me a really dark purpley warm, and that'll be great for the basket as well. Bring my darks in on the basket. I can just flick over them later with the warmer colours to give an indication, an impression of the sunlight over the basketry, the weaving of the basket. But this will give my dark underpainting. And you see how I can actually blend that in with the greens that exist, just leaving a touch of my coloured pencil just to show where things are for the future. Look at the vibrancy of that colour. It's warmer, stronger than the blues around it. Gives me more in the shadows there. So we're really using our very strongest colours, and we're using them purely here with these lovely rich deep colours. And I've still got to come on with my lightest ones yet. I still have to come in here with the really vibrant bright yellows and light blues yet. So I'm only painting my dark underpainting, if you like, some of my deeper mid-tones, not many of the lighter ones. So more of that, more Prussian, more alizarin, really rich dark colours, but as black as we can go. But if I want to go a bit warmer, although the alizarin crimson is warm, I could take some burnt umber, and if I want to go darker still, look here, I can come in with that and my deep blues. I'm really working up some quite heavy paint now. I'm really building this texture up a bit with the heavier paint. I was putting on impasto. Impasto means like paste, impasto you could say, if you wanted to make it into simpler English, anglais simple. Right in around here, let's get some of these dark, rich colours going. I'm going to bring in some of the pure alizarin into there now. Pure alizarin going on amongst this very deep blue to lift these shadows forward, to give a slight glow. There we are now. Alizarin going in there, pure. Oh, look at that, purples and alizarin together, going in pure there to really give a glow to this shadow down here. Make the cool seem cooler. Down here as well, really lather it on, let's enjoy. I'm going to put some mauves into there as well. And that lovely, actually that lovely purple mauve is coming in through here in the shadows. Oh yes, it's absolutely gorgeous. Let's take some of that violet, pure, down into here. Pure violet. Oh, I want to really enjoy this painting. I'm going to lather on the colours. It's the end of my palette. I've been doing a lot of oil painting and I really want to richly, like a tapestry, enjoy the oils into this. Let them come down right through. Oh, that's lovely, I do enjoy that. Now that violet is also happening up the basket up here, so I'm going to put it right up round the handle. It's happening into her dress here, a beautiful violet. Painting like a jigsaw, let's just paint in the colour where it is in the right places. And then that comes down into a rich ultramarine blue. Oh, look at those colours together, isn't that gorgeous? Well, I think so. I don't really care what you think. I'm enjoying it, but I think you'll enjoy it as well. Actually, I wouldn't be sharing it with you if I didn't think you would do, would I? What would be the point? And her arm here, there's a bit of that shadow, the deep purple coming around. And up her arm even a little bit there. Round into her hand. Comes around the basket. Yeah. And I guess I'm going to have some of that warmer purple reflecting up and through these. Yes, we are indeed. Right through into the hair. Let's really enjoy that wonderful purple, cool shadows. As I said, I was going to play with this, didn't I? And take it further than the photograph. I'm going to enhance, without using a computer, enhance areas of this. Now I'm going to come round to my cobalt blue and start to add pure cobalt blue in up here, because I want the cools of the leaves and the light shining up here. Look at that beautiful cobalt blue coming through there now. That cobalt blue is also in our hat band. Comes round here. Even a little cerulean a bit later on there. We'll just blend that round there. And a touch, I think, of the cerulean just on the edge there. We'll really catch that light, bring it all the way along there. Really look for these colours, really enjoy them. And while we're at that colour, some of the decoration on the dress here has a slight bit of the lighter blue happening, coming around, reflecting in there. And it's going to be happening here in these wonderful shadows here. Let's look at this shadow of the lovely, I mean this, I just love these colours, don't you? I mean, I know Monet was a great advocate of these purples and blues as well. He loved them. This shimmering effect, a lot of lighter greens in there later. We're not worried yet, we haven't. Everything can be changed, everything can be adjusted, nothing's in stone, it's only in paint. We've got some quite warm browny greens happening down. Now look at this, this is a little burnt sienna now and a little yellow ochre, and look at the lovely golden warm we can get which can come through in these leaves under here. Colours you wouldn't normally think of putting together. Let's look for them and experiment and play. Yes, we want some of that warmer colour coming up into here as well, and into these leaf here. Just draw that forward a bit. Now this lovely area here we haven't even touched on yet. While I'm at those warms, let's we still haven't finished on the basket. Let's have a little look at the basket here. We've got some lovely, beautiful warms coming across in the basket. Let's play that burnt sienna straight into there. Look at, wow. And this is what I call painting. This is the pleasure of it. This is, for me, this is what it's about. I'm really enjoying just playing with this colour and pushing it here. Look, let's have a look here. And that was the burnt sienna straight in there, and it's coming around into the dress back in the background here a bit as well. And in fact, once we start that, we come down to her face too. So we're going to actually begin to work these colours. It doesn't matter whether it's face, it doesn't matter whether it's garden. We are painting just shapes and colours relevant one to another. Just beautiful abstract colours and shapes which actually are having meaning as well, because these shapes are recognisable as something else. Put a bit of warmth into there for when the colour goes over it later. And her face, I think we've got to change. We'll look at that face, because we've got a lovely colour we could paint in there. Look at that, that lovely rose red that could go in there. While it's on my palette, let's really make that glow. Really bring in some colour. Pure colours here. I'm not mixing up carefully at the moment, but I will do. I mean, I'm going to change these as I go along. Just have to watch the drawing because it's a recognisable object. I could be a bit more careful here. How this rose is in fact also coming up slightly over the hair. Coming into the hat there too. Really got to look at these colours. I'm painting very roughly, just lathering paint on and enjoying, but I really want to make strong, vibrant, pure colour. Bunch of bananas with the fingers, and down here, well, we've got the colour on the brush. Let's get these tones working, bit of terps and we'll get it moving. So, down here then, that red colour we've just been using, flowers up here that are brighter, haven't we? Let's look at those while we're at it still. We've got some really bright, actually they're more, there we go, beautiful colours there. The Prussian again, a very deep feel the nose there. Now down here, reds, let's see what we can do about those. Yep, we can do some fun things down here too, look. Now we're going to start using a few lighter colours. I'm going to play with some of the purples and we'll see just what is needed where. So many variations. Now I'm using a light mauve and a little cerulean blue here and establish the flesh tones. You see I'm painting bit by bit as I go along, just testing and testing until I find what I hope is going to be the right colour. It's still too bright, way too bright. Little yellow ochre into that, just give it a bit more yellow and let's see what happens. Because actually it's quite, that's better, that tone. Just go right back into that. There's very subtle colours coming round here. And if we're lucky we can virtually form the face with just a couple of brush strokes. And this face is also going to be formed by the negative shapes as well as the positive. In other words, the shapes that I paint around it, not just within it, are very important. Because I've got to paint around here to make that face stand out in a moment. Cools. And these are our cool colours reflecting down here. We're going to have some warmer ones coming up in a moment. Down that side of the arm. And linking across it, work across the canvas, don't just work along it. Now we need some lighter pink. So perhaps a little more yellow, so I'm going to this time actually start to add a little cadmium yellow. Masses of lightness we can go to yet. We're still in the very dark colours because I'm working so pure. The colour actually is very dark, even though it seems very light on here. Let's try and keep this colour going. It's easy to suddenly start painting tonally if you're not careful, and then you lose all that vibrance that you've built up. So, a lovely effect of paint. It's very painterly, but you've got to get the drawing a little better. Bake it in and take it away again, and then keep trying without losing the drawing. These little brush marks, just one mark can make such a difference. We've got to just get it dead right. Not easy. So we've almost got the colours correctly now. With a little touch of lemon yellow I was using earlier to actually look at the dress here, because it isn't one colour does come into another, and it's surprising just what colours are where. And this light bluey green does come down and round here in the same way as it does over here. Now we're establishing these different cools and warms, pushing the colours just slightly to keep this vibrance going across the chest and just catching the breast here. Now that colour works now against, this lighter tone works against the darks behind. Really get this effect of light. We've got the same warms going on down the arm here. Now I'm going to play with some cadmium red, coming into these mauves to warm up this whole bit of the arm here. Really warm that bit up. A little bit of yellow ochre perhaps in that too, just to make it a bit more gold to the fingers here. Need to get those warms. Some purple and a bit of the cadmium red. Will show out a bit more when the light leaves around it. Playing cool against the warms. Now I've got to come back to this lighter once again. More orange in that. Subtle colour changes, but they are so important. So we were using cadmium orange there and a little of the pink. A bit more cadmium orange now into that same pink to be a bit warmer around the basket edge up here. And then some of the lighter colour right up, pushing the arm back a fraction there. Capture the light and the moment and the mood with as pure a colour as we can. You see, I really have pushed those colours in this. It's slowed me down a bit having to work on some of the more figurative details. That's a funny colour there. I'm going to take it down with a cerulean blue and white, a little touch of purple, because I'm not quite convinced that's the right colour yet. I've got to put a dark against it, which will make a difference of course, but drawing to do, and drawing with colour. Very dark. Again the Prussian blue, a touch of sienna. Because there's this quite sharp acidic wires to be almost black in its appearance. Prussian blue at its best for this. Blue is also coming down over the back of the neck there into an ultramarine. They're very subtle colours, with cadmium orange, cadmium red on the outside of the hair here to give the warmth that needed there. And a little touch of just straight yellow in there to establish one of the flowers that's in the background, and that will change a lot of the colour values. But while I've got it on my brush, I'll put them in. Now, I've got to come down into these areas here. Let's see what we've got there. I'm going to use a mixture of my greens from earlier, a little burnt umber to give a warm green down there, and then we'll come back into it. So take a little bit of iridium, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little touch of burnt sienna, and let's see what we can get in there with that. As we come down into here, we're going to make it a bit more yellow in a moment, keeping with the green for the minute. Now we establish reflected light on the fingers and so on. Ultramarine blue going along the bottom of that arm to get the dark. And talking about the greens, I think we've got a bit of much lighter green happening up across the arm here. Again reflecting. So yellow ochre pure this time and white. A little touch of that there just to see what that colour does. It does make it very warm, doesn't it? So where do we need that? If it isn't where I'm going to put it, I need to add some burnt sienna to that, the greens, to see how it affects it, because it is one of the variations of the greens, that dress. Just with a few brush strokes. You can see how we're playing with our warms and cools now. Values will change occasionally a little bit, and we've got to work with those. So now we've got the figure pretty much established. It's as much a matter of working around the forms to make this stand out. It's the negative shapes, as we were saying, as it is to work on it. Let's go up to the hat next. We've got a bit of fun to do there, and I really want to keep pushing this colour still, so I'm going to change my brushes back to 1/4 inch again. I can just come down from a 1/8. And have a look at the colours up here, which is another one of our greens. Going to take a little bit of emerald, so I'm going to take a purer colour and a little touch of cerulean blue into that, and cool it down a fraction with a touch of rose. Give myself that sort of colour. Let's bring that up and round the headband all the way to here. Cool shadow. Colours on down here as well. So while I've got that colour on my brush, I can see it happening in the dress down below. Let's bring it into this dress down below. That hand comes all the way down around the flowers here, right down into the... Now, this colour here, in fact, while I'm at it, I've just noticed how much warmer this needs to be underneath. Let's see what we can do there. Because it's a lot more orangey red. It's really got some colour going underneath this hat. How's the yellow ochre doing there? Let's make sure that we're not going too strong. Because the yellow ochre is quite a good warm for something like that. It's not too orange. It still leaves us with the oranges to use. Pure, still using pure colour. Mixing one thing end up on colour next to another. This broken colour effect, but it will give us the vibrancy we want in a moment. Now that very light colour for the hat, you might think it would be just a cream, but I don't think it is. I think it's certainly a cream, yes, but with a very small touch of lemon yellow, but I think we're actually going to find that it's more a very slight touch of pink to it. Let's have a look and see. I reckon it's more that, but even then a fraction cooler. I'm going to put a bit of violet into that. It's a little bit too bright. There we go. Now we'll bring that round the top of the hat. Make more of that, because we want to go on pure with it, so we've got to have nice pure colour. Of course that same colour is strident right through here, catching that sunlight. Now you can see the effects I was after. Pure colours, really strong, really rich. Ah, we've played with that. We've got to get down to enjoying ourselves on some of this stuff down here. Well, I've got that light colour on there though. Some of the baskets just catching a bit more light in areas like that. Right, let's start looking at these lovely areas of colour, where the light's shining up through the paths here. And it's going to make a hell of a difference as well. So back to our lovely colours here, change brushes again, back to a larger brush. And I want to get really strong colours going on down there. Plenty of white now. Going to start using my yellows shortly. At the moment I'm still on cadmiums and so on, but here I'm mixing a little bit of the light blue, the cerulean, with some cadmium orange, just to make an intermediate light mixture for the... And as I say, we're still doing an impression, we're still not painting details. We're giving an illusion, an impression of detail, but we aren't actually painting it. It's nice pinks. Again, this is my cadmium and a little bit of rose going to biscuit. It's a little bit cooler back there. And start to use some of the pure reds into it. Just mixing them in on the surface of the painting itself. So people say, how do you paint flesh? Well, you know, we aren't mixing just a pink for flesh. There's greens going on, there's all sorts of colours going on. And I think they're going to be reflecting up into the dress here a bit, give a bit of warmth underneath her arm. She'll link it together. Do look for these colours, keep looking, don't think you've got it all. Chances are you haven't. Cream's going there a bit. One colour goes one place, it might be another. And now we need to start building these various greens, I think, for the leaves as well. But before we do that, we'll just come back on some of these lighter, because actually some of these leaves up here are still reflecting very light colours like are on the hat. So we need to just flick those in. Full of light, full of colour. Okay, leaves. Dark and light. Light against dark, dark against light. Especially here. And then we'll start to take some of our pure colours from the palette. I'm going to take some bright green now, which is almost a mixture of cerulean and lemon yellow, to be honest. And let's see what that does when we start putting some of that into the painting, and various bits like that to really catch little bits of sunlight, and you see the effect that has. Playing against the other colours, but it is a pure colour, and that colour's going to be coming up and round the sunlight and the basket and all over the place, so we'll flick it in with this thinner brush, giving the effect of the light catching, sunlight glimmering through, catching all of this. This summer's day. Now we're just painting in highlights of sunlight, catching the tops of leaves. You get these lovely painterly brush strokes this way. If you're not faffing about trying to paint little bits of a photograph, just enjoying the paint and an impression like this. Be sure of what you're doing, just go in and do it and enjoy it. Surprising how just one little brush stroke like that can make such a difference, a little bit of colour here and there, catching the light. So we're coming to the last stages of this lovely little painting, which I've enjoyed so much, and it's time to look at these daisies here. I want to overdo it. This balance between always doing enough and not doing enough. So this time, just for the hell of it, pure white, little touch of mauve just to take them down a fraction. And let's see how they look. We've got other flowers to put in there too yet. Put one in our hand for a start. There we go. So I'm putting the light colours on top and the darker, slightly darker colour underneath. We'll go around again in a moment and just touch these up. Well, I've got the colour there, we'll just look at any other flowers that are about as well. There are actually a couple more petals going on in here that I haven't picked up on, but we haven't got more than one colour. Come back, we've got to do the yellow in the middle yet. I'm letting the greens and the blues around blend in with my brush to try and get these shadowed effects in this one behind a little more. And then I'm going to come across the top with the white afterwards. This will give me the shadowed petals. And then you can watch as I come in with the purer white now over the top. Here we go. And we'll just now catch these highlights of white where the sun catches over the top. Quite a nice technique, isn't it? And the same at the back there. And we have one coming in from the side as well here. Again, I'm going to let the shadows go with the purple at first. Put some of that back into there too. And then come on with the white at the end to get the bits of highlight. We've got some other lighter flowers going on around. Just flick those over here. Still think we need to go a little bit lighter up here behind her, so I'm going to those highlights behind her there. Now, back to the daisies, and the middles of them are put them over. And actually there's another orange flower down lower down that I've altogether missed. I'll have to go back on. Just down here there's a marigold that I've missed that's quite important. Down here, ooh, it's about there, isn't it? Got a lovely marigold happening, which would lead the eye down a bit and lead the eye in a bit as well. Now, just around those areas we've got to have something a lot darker. It's quite a warm. Let's try some of the alizarin again, see if that does it. Oh yes, that's the sort of thing, isn't it? A bit of green into that as well at the moment. It's just a little bit too warm at the moment. I'm talking about that alizarin crimson. There's a bit of stonework here. Maybe needs a little bit more warmth. Really make things sing. Make the colours sing. I love that. Because painting is very like music, isn't it? We're using colours in music as well, and texture in music as well. Deep brown. Let's have a look at the burnt sienna. Burnt sienna just around the daisy a bit. A little bit warmer than the. And then into that, a greeny, a very dark greeny brown. Just around those lower edges. So we're using our Prussian blue and burnt sienna again there. Prussian blue and burnt sienna. I've talked you right through this painting at every colour that I've used as I've been going along. I haven't been droning too much, but if you want to learn, then maybe this has been the way for you. I'm going to make a very light cream, as pure a white as I can, clean white, and a little touch of clean lemon yellow. We'll see. There we go. Now we're going to just put a little bit of final sunlight on the tips of those daisies. Places like that. You can just whip them in and say that's it, finished, but you can go one stage further and say, well, okay, I want a little bit more. It Just draws it together with the other creams that we've got. So I was tempting not to bother with the bamboo cane, but I do quite like that cane in there. It gives a nice angle to it. So I think we will. Now, this cane here, which comes down there, be rather fun to do. Now, what colour is it going to be though? Let's start off with a colour I made earlier with the mauve and the burnt sienna. It comes right up, and where does it come off now? The angle comes up through here. Quite an important angle, so I've got to get it right. About in line with the shoulder, about there. But I'll establish it first. Now, we'll move stronger. We'll take the burnt sienna and make it a bit purer down to there. I don't want it to stand out too much, just to balance the painting. Got to start adjusting other things, which is what happens in a painting like this. So don't worry, we'll do it. So we bring in some of that same yellow ochre to the arm down here and add quite carefully on the edge of that bit of stick is a very light pink. So I've got to go right back to my fine brushes again and hope that we can just carefully pick that out. So maybe we should look at some of the other canes back here as well. Some of these daisy leaves, and we might just indicate in the background these posts that are here. I'm going to tidy up a little bit of these daisies. Stonework there, just a little bit of indication of surface. There, I think that's done. You can afford to sign the bottom right. There we go. Well, you've seen it from beginning to end, this one. I'm going to do a watercolour. We shan't do many more paintings for this particular film because I think we've given you quite a bit of how to paint figures in the same way to paint everything else in the painting. I'm going to do a fairly loose portrait now of this lady in the flower garden. We've got just 3 more paintings to do to finish this series. The 2 portraits, another little oil, which will be a bit more photographic than this one, and this fairly loose watercolour I want to do. I only need 3 brushes, my oval mop, a number 10 round and a number 5 smaller round. Standard set of watercolours that we've seen. And I want to be fairly fluid with this and have quite a bit of gentle wet into wet, blending one into another, and lost and found edges. Okay, I want to start with the hat here. I'm going to put a little aureolin yellow on there, just to get me started off, to have a slight tint to that light area, because nothing's ever going to be pure white, or very seldom, if there's light shining on it, and hopefully we have some sunlight on this, so That's why we'll have that yellow in there. That'll give me a slight wash then. So this is a wash of one colour. And I'm going to take a little cobalt violet and drop that in and let it come down through. Try my brush and just suck away a little of the lighter colour up here. So we can use the brush to suck it away, or you can use a bit of tissue even just to do that. Just lighten it up around that edge. And under here it's a fraction darker, so I'm going to take a little more of the yellow. But this time I'm going to use a little chrome yellow. Get the sunlight effect coming around there, underneath the hat there. And cool it down a bit with a touch of green. Just give that edge there a little bit of shadow into it and around this edge here. So we're going to try and do this almost in one stroke brushwork. Just tinting little bits of it to get the effects we want. Now when that's a fraction drier, we could add a little bit of texture to that, but for the moment that's good enough. Straight down now into her face and skin tones. I'm going to start off with yellow ochre all the way down her arm, working on the vertical, so I have to be careful about the trickles that might occur here. And while I'm at it, we'll go around this basket, the lighter edge of the basket too. I've got to work fairly quickly because I want to drop wet into this, so I can't afford to spend too long painting it. Notice I left a little bit here at the tips of the fingers because I want to be a slightly lighter colour on them. Here wants to be a little softer, so I'm just going to get some clean water and gently, before it dries out, blend that in. Paper's almost dry, so we're almost putting a glaze over it now. This is just to darken those colours, those tones down a bit, so we're still working a little bit wet into wet. Some burnt sienna, a little touch of purple. The idea is to do just a couple of strokes and try and complete the painting. And I say we'll let the wet into wet do the effects up here as well. Now we're going to go quite a bit darker. Same colours, the purple and the burnt sienna. You can still see the drawing underneath, so no worry there, I can see what I'm doing. I'm letting the wet into wet get darker and darker as we go along. I'm going to add a little bit more ultramarine to it now. Let gravity do the work for me after that. So watercolours, I think, are better to be fairly rapid. You want to keep it nice and fresh. I'm using my big oval mop, so we start with our biggest brushes and finish with our smallest brushes. Now, whilst that's drying, I'm going to take a little of the cobalt violet again and just tint down her dress here a bit. With a much thinner glaze of it. And while that's still wet, I need to go back into there and just drop in some of the shadows. Now this is dried off a bit up here, so we can afford to come back and just play with some of the texturing, just delicately feeling the texturing of the hat up here. Tip of the brush, tickling it in. We can soften that a bit afterwards when it's drier, just by putting some clean water over it. But I'm going to just add a few more indications of the weave of this hat. Now, back to the face again. This warm that we were putting in here should be able to drop in slightly stronger shadow now. Just, it's still a little bit wet. I'm risking it, and we'll darken that in shortly. Our burnt sienna and purple there again. Hard and smooth edges again still. So what I want to show you at the moment is these various techniques that we can employ to make a painting like this. And I want to lift a little bit out. I'm going to take a smaller brush and just lift a bit out of here because I've lost a little bit of the shape of action going in there. So you see how I can, while that paint is still wet, I can just lift that out. There we are. That'll make sense in a moment when I come back into it. I'm going to take a to my ultramarine, try and find that eyelash there while it's still damp. I don't want too hard an edge there, neither do I want it spreading, so the top edge there of the mouth. Whilst we're on the subject of warm and cool reds, let's have a look at these flowers that are on the dress here. Catching the sunlight, and some of them are in shadow and some of them aren't. So we've got a warm red there, which is our bright red, our light red, and I'm going to now put in some cooler roses into that. Drop them in wet into wet, and whilst I've got that cool colour on my brush, there's a little bit of it needs linking in here to the breast. I'm even going to take a little bit of alizarin now to go even darker into here, which is a really strong purpley red. And back onto the shadowed areas. Indeed, a bit of Prussian blue into the eye, just a little bit of deeper blue. And there's some greens in here as well on this dress, so while I'm on these colours, while I'm on the dress, let's do that. Careful where these colours are too, because you know that green might be coming in somewhere else. In fact, it is up here. To link colours together, when you draw the detail of a hair under here, we're just going to indicate the fact that things come around there. Little indications. Right, we're well on the way with that. And we're going to just look at some of these patterns being a bit darker. Now we need to come on to all the details. I'm not going to masking fluid out this daisy this time. We're going to just paint it straight, putting the dark colours around it. Now I'm going to start painting in some of the lighter colours whilst that's drying. Let's have a look at these delphiniums. I'm going to make a little wash of cerulean blue up here. Same across the next delphinium over here. Drop in some cobalt, pure watercolour. We're not using any acrylic inks or anything fancy like that. Get all our colours with this. A little cobalt violet going on. Let's link in with the face more then. And while we're on the cobalt violet, that's also working here. We're going to reverse it now. We're going to use the cobalt violet first and then come back to the cerulean blue onto that. Now we're going to do it the other way around and drop a little bit of the blue into the cobalt violet, which actually has a quite different effect. And then finishing off, take some ultramarine and we'll come in with the really warms here for these delphiniums. And into this as well. Well, we're on that blue. We know that they're. We never know what you're going to see there. I was just painting my watercolour, and 3 woodcock, snipe, 2 mallard, collared dove, crows, all sorts came in. This is hard weather. No, a blackbird as well. Right, let's look at this shape again because I'm still not happy with it, and we'll put another glaze in under here. Right, so we're back to our colours and the flowers. Let's liven them up a bit. It's just a little bit of red in the hat here, so we'll put that into it. Now, delphinium, so a little bit more pink in. We need to be looking at some of these yellows. Let's have a look at the very light yellow with this lovely marigold here. Again, we'll start off with the aureolin yellow, one of my favourites, very, very lightly, all over the top. And cutting around this afterwards then. Into that we'll drop some cadmium orange. that dry off and put a little bit more detail in with some Indian red in a moment. A little bit of green in there perhaps. Just on some of the shadowed areas here. So I want a fairly loose watercolour here. And into that still, take a bit of alizarin, drop that into the centre. And perhaps a cooler red in there, just a little bit of rose in places. And let's look at that lovely, delicious feeling we get of colour now. There we go. Let's carry on with these flowers because we've got to get all these colours in. Some nice red here, so we're going to use a very thin wash of rose there first, letting the leaves shine in between. And we'll come back with a little red, just let that blend in. And then take a stronger rose to help finish off towards the centre. Right, I think it's time to start thinking about this background. Taking the big brush again, my big oval mop. And let's look at bringing a wash all the way down through here. What would I like for that? Well, I think I'm going to have a mixture of Viridian and some yellow ochre lights behind. All I want to be able to do here is to still paint wet into wet here in a moment. Right through to here. I'm deliberately going to put some water right across here. So I'm going to bring down from a cool up here. So I'm working on the vertical, so this particular piece of painting would have been better if I'd been working at it on a flat, but we get some much stronger blues and greens. Let's put a few little bits of grass coming to that background just to get an idea of something going on behind there. Now it's very dark, so that's wet into wet. And then we've got some interesting warms going on just behind here. And make sure that the greens are also in the colour of the dress. Greens that there are, and of course leave the white daisies behind that exist. And now you see how we're making those dark colours leave the light colours behind. Just to give the indication of the leaves there as it dries a bit more now. We're going to indicate these textures. We're not going to put them all in detail. This is an impressionist picture, not a copy of the photograph. Going one step further. And this is a much warmer green I'm using now, you'll notice, to bring it more forward. We do the same down here in one or two places. The darker we go around the lights, the more the lights will shine out. Let's see, having made a mistake there, just thoroughly enjoy ploughing into colour. If I can take out enough of this to get it back to almost white. Not as pure as the white daisies, of course, but maybe just enough to get a lift out and get the daisy back there again. And rectify it as best you can. Just playing with and indicating these edges and colours. We haven't used any masking fluid in this one. And about there. So one or two more little bits of dark where it's necessary on the shading. I'm going to stand up now and get back from the painting, because if you're too close up to something like this you really can't see enough of what's going on. But be so careful at this stage, because you do not want to start making very dark lines or marks, or it will stand up like a sore thumb. Just a little touching up here and there is all that's required. She does have a couple of pearl earrings here. What I'm going to do is just take a little bit of acrylic, indicate those earrings for fun. Right, well here we go again then. Nice full palette of clean colour, ready to go. Set of brushes. Shan't need very many, that should be enough for me for the small painting. And we're going to work on a pre-prime canvas, just white this time, straight on, a la primer. And I'll start with the face and hair and then work my way down to the hands. So what I'll do this time is zoom in onto the face so you can see more detail being done. And then we'll paint the background and so on very loosely. So we're going to work on the head. I want to establish the colours. It's not a very large painting, but fairly detailed. Again, I want to still really push the colours to get the light and atmosphere. And we're going to have not only just pinks and warm colours in the face, but they're going to be cools, they're going to be greens and blues as well. I think we'll start off with the hair up here. I'm just going to go straight to an obvious colour perhaps, which is yellow ochre, and add a little bit of body colour to that just to give it some depth. Just add a touch of that there to start off with. Now that's far too bright, but I have to have some colours on a white canvas to start me off, just to find my way. Okay, I'm then going to take down some rose and add that to it to warm it up a little. Find my first colours as we go along. Having established that, I'm going to come down towards the front of the hair and just start to establish colours there. Going to add to that same colour some ultramarine, which is quite dark. So that means we've got ultramarine and a touch of rose and a wee touch of yellow ochre. So we're getting quite a cool with a little touch of warm in it. And that's going to come all the way around there, following the hair at the moment, going across it. And let's just establish where these tones are. A little bit more blue into that. Here. So we're moving between the cools and the warms now. I'm going to go over this later with a fine brush and flick in a few wisps of the hair as well. A little bit of dark comes down here too, right down to the edge. Right, and here. Now here it becomes a bit darker again, so I'm going to add a bit more of the blue and a little bit more of the rose, so we're losing the yellow ochre touch now, because I want it to be a bit darker there. There we are. I'm not going to use black at all. All the way down here, cool under her chin, comes in round the neck. Keep it simple. And that same colour at the moment going on back down round her ear here, down into that bit of hair that comes all the way down into the chest. bits lighter at the end, which we'll do a bit later on. You see, that's what we can do with oils, remember, we can go backwards and forwards with these opaque paints, unlike watercolour where we have to work from light to dark. With oils, we can go either way. We can go dark into the lights, we can take the lights and put dark over them, so we're total choice. I want to be a bit warmer still, so I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna now to that. A little bit of burnt sienna and some ultramarine to give myself a really nice dark warm, which is going on here. See the difference in that colour? As I said before, it's playing one against another. It's like the rough next to the smooth. If we do that and play the rough next to the smooth, then it will enhance the rough and make it look rougher, and the smooth will look smoother. So it's playing a game with colour and one thing against another. A bit warmer and lighter there, the yellow ochre. Coming down here. Golden colour. It's cool coming in there in just a moment. So we've managed with 3 colours so far. I'm going to take a little bit of white, add it to that same mixture of yellow ochre, the warm, to go up here. Establish it for the moment. It's nowhere near as bright as I made it this colour up here. It was just to establish those colours, to see where I'm going first. Because we need to see what's correct and what isn't. Just establishing the base colours. Already we've established a few tones. I'm not really pushing the colours as yet. I'm just doing a standard portrait at the moment. And just start to lighten up these areas, which we're going to need to do more on later. But just really establish some of these lighter bits here, which I'm going to do with some lighter blue and things later as well again, just to get the feel of the hair to start with. So quite subtle colouring at the moment between the cools and the warms. Okay, we'll go on from that and we'll start looking at the flesh tones. I'm still going to stay with the yellow ochre for the moment and the white before I make it a bit warmer, just to see what colour we're doing up here. Right, now if I take some of that burnt sienna, I don't want to use strong colours yet, make that very pale as well, and just blend a little bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna together to give me a slightly warmer light there. Let's see if we see that anywhere else. We're seeing it down here. So again, it's like painting by numbers. We're trying to find the right colours in the right places. As I'm working against a white canvas, it's quite difficult to do at first because it's hard to see. It makes the colours look very dark when they're actually quite light colours that I'm using. So I'm just trying to find subtle mixes at the moment of flesh tones, which are very light colours because she's a little girl with very pale skin. So we're still working just between the yellow ochre, a little touch of rose white, and a touch of burnt sienna where we need it, just to warm things up. Not too much yet, but I'm going to add some other cools in a moment. I'm going to go to a smaller brush as well because this is so fine that you do need to work quite small now. And the first colour I'm going to do is going to be a little bit of dark in the mouth here. Just to get the inside line of the mouth. And I'm going to come back out again. Don't make the colour too strong, just find the warm at the moment. Find a lower lip with a little of the rose and a touch of yellow ochre just to lighten that lip up. Right, so that's all we need for there. Now I want to look at the cobalt warmers on here, because now we've got that in, there is a little bit of that colour coming in to the cheek here. And then we need to look at some of these cooler shadows. So I'm going to mix a little bit of cerulean now and some white, which is quite a cool blue, and just add some of that, just tint it in with some of that pink a little, and we'll see what happens when we use that for some of the cooler shadows here. We need to lose this canvas and the drawing marks as well, so this is a good way to be doing it. I'm going to bring that blue right the way through here and down that side of the nose. Now while we're working on the blues, we'll just establish the irises. Keep them subtle. Don't want it to be too blue. We can enhance them later, there's no problem with that. All we're doing at the moment is just establishing the right tones one to another. So we're still only using burnt sienna and a touch of ultramarine on these darks at the moment. And you see how just with a few colours already we can start to really make things have some shape. So I'm going to take now some rose without too much yellow and actually make a very light pink with that, and see if we can just find the subtlety of that eye shape coming round there. I'm going to take a little touch of green now. We'll look at where that might be coming on the face. So we're playing between these warms and delicate cools, trying to find the colours on the photograph, the subtleties of them, and you see how it's starting to work now. This can be where the pencil can be a bit of a nuisance as well, because you see where I'm painting now, the pencil is actually coming away and affecting the colour of the paint, which when we're painting very thinly with light colours, this can be a bit of a nuisance, but it's nothing we can't sort out by simply painting a bit more heavily. To get that mouth just right, to work on little touches of paint. Right, now let's go back to this blue here that we were playing with earlier and see if we can enhance those slightly now. Again, I'm going to go back to my cobalt blue at the moment and just come in with a little bit of cobalt blue and white here to give a slightly stronger blue. Don't want to overdo it, just bring that blue out a little bit more strongly. Having done that, we need to go back with some darker around it. So I'm back to my ultramarine and burnt sienna again to get the different, slightly warmer, deep blue, almost a black mix, which it isn't black though. Let's see what we can do with that. Go carefully here now, because these eyes are so important to paint correctly. We're almost down to needing a one-haired brush for this job. We get our eyelashes just coming down, like that there. That mouth, I'm still not quite happy. I still think we need to play a little bit with the edge of that mouth there. It may be that it needs just to come down into there a fraction more. That's better. It's only very subtle little things you see, but they do make a difference. And there's a slight grey for the eyebrow, which we haven't touched yet. So with that mixture for the eye earlier of the ultramarine and sienna, I'm not going to make this too strong. I'm just putting it in. I'll come back and soften that in a moment. I just want to make sure it's in the right place. And the same thing going on over there, of course. With the drawing all the time, we can readjust it and readjust it until it's... So take a little bit of yellow now, a little bit of chrome, and just add that to the yellow, which will be, because the yellow ochre is going to be warmer than the chrome yellow, so this should hopefully give me make the flesh tone slightly warmer and give us this slightly soft-edged feel to the hair. That's not harsh, it's quite fine. And working in the reverse, we'll come back, take our ultramarine again and burnt sienna, because I can go darker than that, but just at the moment I just want to work with these two colours and save my darkest and lightest to the very end when I might need them. So I've been saving this, you see, and I can go darker yet if I want to, so you know, I've still got plenty of space to manoeuvre. That'll make more sense when I put the background in. We're almost done on the face, so I've just got to go back and touch up that bit of ear I painted out. It'll be done afterwards. Right, let's move on down. Do the arms now, back to a slightly larger brush again. And there we are, we're into the painting. Now let's go for this red dress. Red-orange dress. I'm going to be very crude at first, but I'm just going to take neat cadmium red, slap it straight on and see what happens. Actually it looks quite cool then, but I don't mean cool as in wow man cool, I mean the red itself, is cadmium, actually looks quite cool, so I think I might be needing a bit of orange in this as well to really warm this up. Right behind her hair here. We're going to have to link this in more later. All I want to do now is get rid of the white canvas and establish colours. I don't normally finish a painting in one part so early on. Now we've painted the hands in the same way as the face, using the same colours. The rose with the ultramarine, with the rose with the cerulean blue for the shadows, and the yellow ochre and rose and white, and then some cerulean around for the shadows here. Very quickly painted in with the highlights, not in detail yet. Now I'm just slapping on some cadmium red just to get rid of this white canvas. I do need to establish these colours back here. And I know there's a stem of a plant coming along there, so I'll just leave that little bit of white there to remind myself of what's going to go there later. Got the little details to put in afterwards. Don't want to be too detailed. We've done the portrait basically, so now it's to start making this into a painting and not a photograph. We are using the photograph and keeping the likeness, but we're not bound by it to try and make a copy of a photograph. We're going a stage further. I'm talking about a little cadmium orange in places just to lighten things up, brighten things up against this red before we put the spots in. And you see how that orange again softens in with the face, it links it in. Right, let's slap in this colour all over here, get our background in, goes right down to the hair there, there. We'll tidy that up a little bit later on, don't need to right now. I'm stronger with the blues in a moment there. I just want to really get some lovely colours going and these shapes. I'm now using the blues as cools to really give some depth against this dress. The dashes, just following the darks around the shapes of leaves. Not being exact at all. I know whereabouts I want things to be and I'm just giving an impression of those now. Now I'd get a cleaner edge if I had done this in acrylic. But now I'm trying to, in pastel, I'm trying to paste this stuff on top without losing too much of the colour, which isn't easy with all this dark colour around it. Plaster this stuff on, build up these flowers almost as they're growing there. And that red dress will make sense, you see, with these colours in now. It won't seem quite so bright because it's a part of it. Going on back there to a lot lighter. And again, hopefully they will give more depth to my painting of the face because they'll be lighter. You can sing a bit. This ultramarine. But I don't want to do too much more because I do want to keep it still, as I say, fairly loose. I don't want to tighten up into an illustration here. And I think the painting is nice and lively as it is. I just need to put a few little details in maybe of the plants and things, but will it help? This acidic greens might just bring out the pinks a bit more, the flesh I think. And it's small things like this we need to look at the end of a painting like this, just to see what is required. Now then, the dress itself, I have a very light pink or light cream, I'm not quite sure which, let's just try and see. It is very light, that colour indeed. Just quite what it is. I think I'm going to try pink spots. So let's take some white and a little touch of cream and some of the pink we had and just try it out and see. These polka dots. Yeah, not far out there I don't think. But all these little dots to paint across the dress. I should just finish it off. Don't have to put too many in, just enough to give the feeling of the event. Watch out for reflected light still, if I haven't got it, it could still be there. There we go, I think that'll do it for the moment anyway. Tomorrow we'll do another oil, but a bigger one. Hopefully even more loosely. We're going to do a different technique again today. We're going to use acrylic inks, these lovely FW acrylic inks, over £140 knot paper, and then when it's dry we're going to put soft pastel over the top. It's a lovely way to work this, especially for flowers. All we're going to need is the acrylic inks, and I'm going to use an oval mop. We need a diffuser to keep it all liquid and wet, because acrylic inks, once they're dry, they are dry, you can't move them. So to keep things moving in liquid and wet into wet techniques, which I want for the background, I'm going to need to keep it wet with a diffuser and a jar of water, and then that's it. Once it's done, it dries and we put the pastel over the top. It's a great way for painting flowers because these inks are very, very vibrant and very bright, far brighter than watercolour, although they aren't as transparent. Now this technique is just so loose that I don't even bother drawing it out. I know approximately my shapes and sizes. I'm going to be able to cut into things with pastels later. All I'm going to do is just try and get the vibrance of these colours glowing through in the correct places. And to do this, what I'm going to do is wet the entire paper first, because I'm going to be working wet into wet. I'm going to let these colours spread, and the only way of control I'm going to have is the amount I put in to the amount of surface water that there is. So the more water, the more things are going to spread out, and the more of the paint that I put on, or the more that the inks that I put on, again, the more they will spread into that water as well. So as the paper dries and I put less ink on, then it will spread less and I've got more control. So at first I just want to be dropping in carefully, which is why I'm working on the flat at the moment, although in landscape I very often, because this technique is great for everything, I mean it's good for seas, it's good for landscape, it's good for flowers, I'm going to work flat in this case, but normally I work on the vertical and just let it trickle down. It doesn't really matter if it trickles down. Right, so where are we going to start? We want these bright flowers here. I guess they're going to be about there for the child. So I'm going to still work in a watercolour technique, in that I'm going to drop on these yellows into there and then drop the orange into those. So we're working the lights again and then the darks afterwards. While I've got that colour on my brush, let's see, her dress comes down to here, approximately a third. There's colours going on around there. I'll pick up my yellow again, drop those in. Lovely, vibrant way to work, as you can see. Beautiful, isn't it? And I mean, sometimes you might just do this and think, oh, I want to leave that alone. It's a lovely abstract picture. Why should I bother putting in any more detail? You might not need it, which is fair enough. About halfway there, so we've got these oranges coming all the way up, yellows, just dropping them in. Doesn't matter if they spread out too much, as I say, because we're going to be putting pastel over it later anyway. But just look at this lovely colour we can get. I mean, it just is such fun to work this way. Around the top of her head here, down there. Right, let's get our yellows and oranges in, basically. Put a bit more orange down onto these. It's just starting to dry a bit, so as it dries, if you want it to spread more, use your diffuser, aim it in the right direction helps, to just let it, to dampen it up again, keep it wet. And you get these wonderful swirly effects as well, but I'm not necessarily after those this morning. This is just a... And it will spread out and lighten up, so... And as it does that, we can come back into it and add to these colours. Now, as we're painting a watercolour technique still, if we want something a bit thinner, then we've got to paint the paint thinner. So if I want a purpley mauve flower down here, then that's what I've got to do, and actually paint it thick and thin like that to get the effects I want. And drop the red into that. Look at these lovely effects we can get. That flower, quite abstract, but so we'll work into this later. And watch where these colours are now, because as you go along you'll need to try and keep the drawing not too tight at all, but you need to know where things are. Now her dress is coming right down through here. It comes down to ooh, just below halfway, so just below halfway is here, so that bit of dress is going to come all the way down to there. And these plants and things I can put on top later, so we're not bothered about those at all, not in the slightest. So I'm going to bring that purple right down through there, right up and through into here. The dress comes down around the arm here, back of the arm is there. I'm just going to indicate that with this at first. Then I'm going to use my red, thin it down a bit because I want a pinky red there, but I can bring the pink over it later, and the arm will come up over that, so there we go. Let that dress be indicated by what we're doing there. Much darker purple down into here, getting the effect of the dress going up into there. And talking about that purple and the reds, and back here again with these flowers that are coming down there. I want red into that again. Let them spread out, doesn't matter. And it's just nice as an abstract. I mean, we almost get such a nice abstract here, we don't do anything with it. And there's blues and purples coming down amongst the dress lower down there. Those blue flowers I can put in later with the pastel, but if I wanted to I could lift out. Let me show you what I mean. If I wanted to put a bit of blue in there, try my brush and actually lift out an area where I think the flower's going to be, as you would standard watercolour, lift it out, there and there, look. And then I can drop back into that some of the ink, in this case the turquoise. So it's all possible. And into that I could drop a little of the ultramarine blue. Now it's a bit hard, so I'm going to just spray it a little, just to soften it and let it spread out a bit. So yeah, everything is possible, you see. Now let's come back to that very blue, because I do want some of that going on up here as well. There's a delphinium working there, and again it's getting a bit dry there, so let's spray that. The delphinium going on just behind her head here. And there's other little bits of blue all over the place going on down. Cornflowers that are happening down here. It's still just spreading, but we're getting to a stage now where I'm going to have to soak the whole thing, I think. Got a lovely effect there. You know, it's so tempting just to keep as an abstract and not even bother taking it any further. Centre of these red flowers have some darks in them. Around here, some of the delphiniums a bit darker blue. I'm going to go really dark with the greens and blues in a moment. Now for the figure, because I'm going to put very light colours on there later, I want quite a dark mauvey colour behind all of this now to glow through the shadows. So I'm going to take quite a deep purple blue and just draw in her head shape. Let's see, her shoulders come up there, her arm comes up that side. That's going to be approximately where her head's going. Draw in that, because that's going to show through, glow through my flesh colours that I'm actually going to paint in there later. Quite large, I've actually enlarged it a bit more than I need to, but I don't need to worry about that in the slightest. All the way down there, and I'm going to come around her arm, and down there, back up to those flowers. The shadowed stuff behind all of that. Looks totally weird and abstract at the moment, but that isn't the worry. Right, now let's wet the paper again, because it's all getting rather dry. That will spread things more. Haven't stretched the paper, you can see it cockling, not to worry at all. All adds to the effect. Got these light flowers working there, but we'll put those in with the pastels later. What we want now is the lighter greens and leaf colours, so I'm going to start painting those in. Just basically the leaf shapes all around here. Lighter greens first, of course. We've got a very light bluey green leaf coming in there. We can mix the colours on the paper as well. And these light greens that are coming up through the picture all the way through here. Not worry about it blending in at all. It's all good fun. Absolutely loose and abstract. But I'm even going to add some of that green into the hair here because it does come down in there anyway. Loose and abstract. Seems a nutty way to work, and you're going to think, how the hell can you bring that into a figurative painting? But it just goes to show you, or this will show you, about this business of working loosely, how you can always tighten up a loose painting, but you can't go loose into a tight painting when you've already started it off. So it's quite important to differentiate between that. Now don't worry about the white flowers or the light flowers, doesn't matter about those at all. Now back in here and let's let it blend. Now we want the darker greens and the deeper blues going on. So I'm just going to first of all mix up a cool green. Just get a little bit of texturing going now amongst this. These leaves, so we'll already have some texture going on. Much of that will disappear anyway, as you can see when I actually work into it. So it'll blend out most of this anyway, but it just gives us a little bit more to work with. In the end, we don't want any white paper showing at all, which you won't have when I've done. Now we need to come to the darker colours. And to mix up a darker green, but it's still a fairly acidic around the edge of this dress. Till we come to really darks in a moment. Let's just really get these light greens showing. And the beautiful colours we can get, absolutely beautiful colours we can get this way. Start to come around these flowers just a little bit. Got darks with lights leaving some behind there and the leaves. So we're drawing the round shapes there, letting them stay behind. The effects we're getting. You think I'm mad, don't you? Well, I probably am, but this madness is going to work and turn into a painting. And as I say, you might just say, oh, wow, I love that as it is, I don't want to go any further. I have had students that have done that, and they just say, well, I've really learnt and enjoyed doing abstract, and this is a good way to paint abstract as well. Now I want to come down to our real darks. I'm not using black, I'm using a very deep Prussian blue now and purples. Now I don't know of any other way you can get this vibrance of colour apart from these inks working in this way. And that's where our figure's going there. So, beautiful abstract effect. And sometimes it only needs a little touch of colour of the pastel to pull things together. Other times you completely work over it. And I don't need to do any more than that at the moment, but you might just say, oh, I want that as it is, I like that as an abstract. So we'll stop there at the moment and let it dry. picture up and ready on the easel, and the important things next to us are the Unison pastels and of course a tin of beer. Now in this case we're able to paint lights over the darks, and of course we can put darks back in whenever we want. So we can tidy up these loose underglowing colours behind into details. For instance, if I start straight away with some highlighting just to work out where the hair and stuff is going to go on with the skull, just into there, and I can blend it in. This is £140 not watercolour paper, so it will take, it's not too textural, we don't want anything too textural, it will take the pastel quite well. If I was doing a snow scene, then I may well want a rough paper or something far more textural. Already you can see her face starting to appear in there. You look for these colours, little bit by little bit, section by section. And we're going to gradually bring her out of this paper, just subtly using little highlights, and what I want to do is just gently indicate where things are, not doing in detail, just don't want to lose all this lovely work we've done with this abstraction here. I'm going to use the surface of the paper slightly now to scumble. Scumbling means just rubbing across the surface. So you've got a dry brush and you might just rub it across, scumble it across the surface of the paper. There we go, you see. So we've established the girl and where she is. There's an ethereal quality to it we want to pick up on. By these little marks we can get with the reflected light, the feeling of the face there. I'm going to put a bit more, I'm working a lot more detail into this obviously because being the primary focus, the face. We're gradually getting there with this portrait, but it's very fiddly with these large pastels. You've just got to keep gently working at it and hope you don't go and smudge it, because that'd be the worst thing to do, wouldn't it? Now you can see the pastel being used as pastels can be. These nice light highlights, which is what this is about, coming down here. All this tousled blonde hair. Well, here I am now on the last of the series of our painting figures and flowers in my flower beds, newly established beds here in the gardens in Lincolnshire. Hope you've enjoyed the different mediums that we've used in different styles and ways. So this last one of Liz, my pal, with Liz, a friend of mine, who came over and helped pick flowers, who came over and helped model in the garden. An oil, straight onto the white canvas. I shan't describe this one all the way through, we'll just enjoy watching me paint it, I think. I just want to relax into this and paint very, very rapidly and freshly and with strong colour. You've seen my palettes already, so you know how I paint. I just want you to enjoy watching this one being created, okay?